In today's Leeds news, decision time on Meslier, Soucek on Leeds radar, new season dates revealed, Nonto ready to go, and Dallas says more bite needed. Morning folks, Stuart here at The View, Friday morning the 4th of April with your final Leeds news video of the week before we get ready for the weekend's action. There's a preview, flew solo last night, so there's a preview up of the game against Luton Town, some stats and data and team news coming into that game. Two quick announcements. The Bristol City game has now been moved to Monday at an 8 p.m. kickoff, and that will represent Leeds' 35th out of 46 games televised so far this season. Thanks to Andrew Stats Dalton for that number as well, which means that Sky have broken their promise to only show 21 games, maximum 21 games per team this season. So people were asking that question, wanted to give you an update on that. Also, details on the Content Creator Charity game. We'll have a live stream tonight at 6 p.m. myself and Joe Blackburn to give you all the details on that charity game, where it's taking place, and what you need to do if you want to get involved in that game in any capacity. So I'll give you that later on, but today we'll crack on and start with the news, and we'll start around the Illan Meslier situation and some potential complications coming towards the end of the season. Yesterday, Daniel Farke confirmed that Karl Darlow will take the place of Illan Meslier in goal this weekend against Luton Town. Farke made a very good point during this conversation as well on Karl Darlow, pointing out that it's probably the best time to put Darlow into the team, given that he's had 2 games under his belt in recent weeks for Wales and clocked up 290 minutes and decent performances as well, which means he's not coming into the Leeds United goal cold for this game. If Darlow doesn't perform for any reason, if he gets injured, red cards, then Illan Meslier could very well find himself back in the Leeds United goal before the end of the season. But if those scenarios don't happen, last weekend's game against Swansea could be the last time we see Illan Meslier starting in a Leeds United shirt. Meslier's contract at Leeds expires on June 30th, 2026, meaning that at the end of this season, Illan Meslier will have just 12 months left to run on his current Leeds United deal. Last season, Genoa and Fiorentina were labelled as having interest in the player. Manchester United looked at him as a backup option for their squad. Leeds' promotion or lack of promotion, either way, will dictate the transfer factors when it comes into this position in the summer. Should Leeds get promoted, Aaron Ramsdale, Georgi Petrovic and Caoimhin Kelleher are all named as players said to be on Leeds United's goalkeeping shortlist, but either way, a big decision will need to be made for the Leeds United goalkeeping position this summer. Let's move on and talk about a potential transfer rumour. And according to reports from the Claret and Hugh today, Leeds may be interested in West Ham United central midfielder Thomas Soucek. And this rumour has been floating around for a couple of days. It's now started to formalise itself in some written content. But the report states that the 3 promotion clubs in the Championship are all said to have a strong interest in Soucek: Leeds, Sheffield United and Burnley. Soucek apparently has been identified as Leeds United as a potential Premier League level and experienced midfielder should they get promoted to the Premier League, and the report also says that Soucek is in high demand and that Everton themselves may have already made some form of an offer to bring the player in for next season. West Ham United are said to be monitoring and looking at their current crop of players' contract situations, with Graham Potter said to want to put his stamp on this West Ham team next season, which could leave the door open for some players to move on. Speaking of moving on, let's move on and talk about when the dates for the new season will be revealed. And Graham Smith in the Yorkshire Evening Post today has a piece that gives the background on what's likely to happen with these dates. But I'll give you the shorthand version of this for now. You can read the full piece in the YP if you want to. We now know the dates of the 25-26 season will be released. Relegation or promotion withstanding, it doesn't really matter. Both sets have been released in terms of the dates that we can expect to see those fixtures released. There are 3 more home games for Leeds United in the current campaign, finishing on May 3rd should Leeds not end up in the playoffs, and the new season's fixtures will now be released on June 26th, and that will cover the Championship, League 1 and League 2, and those fixtures, as I say, 26th, will be released at 9 a.m. that morning. If Leeds are to get promoted to the Premier League, they will find out their Premier League fixture dates by Wednesday, June 18th at 9 a.m, so a week or so earlier than the Championship release dates. So some dates to keep in your calendar for now. Leeds obviously have the game against Manchester United in Stockholm, I believe, on the 21st as well. So plenty of stuff coming out around that week as well. So depending on when they go, 18th if they're in the Premier League, 26th if they are in the Championship again next season. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's move on. Let's talk about Willie Nonto and conversations yesterday about his position, and the calls for Willie Nonto to start against Swansea City last weekend went away a little bit after the player picked up an ankle injury on international duty. But a goal off the bench in that game have now increased the volume of calls for Willie Nonto to start in this weekend's game against Luton Town. Off the back of the announcement that Ilan Meslier will be replaced in goal by Carl Darlow, a follow-up question from BBC's Adam Pope inquired about Nonto his potential starting position in the game against Luton, and Daniel Farke said the following on the topic. It was a heartbreaking finish against Swansea, but it was beneficial for a few players. Good for Junior and Ow to get some minutes. Good for Brendan Aronson, our best offensive player on the pitch in the first half. A confidence boost, but good for Willie to find some trust in his ankle, and good for him to have a full week of training to allow the ankle to heal. Willie has had a good spell, impressive against QPR, good for his confidence, and he's ready to go, as are all of my players. The question on the selection around where he plays will come in. There are still several question marks, and probably the first time in quite some weeks that we probably can't predict the starting 11 that Daniel Farke will put out. There's question marks around the central midfield pairing with Ethan Ampadu now fit and starting last weekend, Tanaka and Rothwell as well then as conversations around both wide players and the number 10, which obviously Willie Nonto can fill any of those three positions quite comfortably should he be given the opportunity to come in and start. Calls for Large Ramazani to come in as well, so there is competition for those places and players chomping at the bit to get in should Daniel Farke decide to, I suppose, use a much needed rotation for this game against Luton Town, but we'll see what he does. I will never predict what Daniel Farke will do, because I think he's likely to play Ethan Ampadu in the middle of the park. There's still very much question marks around both wide players coming into the game as well, so we'll have to see on that one. But we'll move on. We'll talk about the final news story of the day, and this one is relating to Stuart Dallas conversations around Leeds' run into the season. And yesterday Stuart Dallas was at Elland Road to promote an Every Minute Matters campaign, and BBC Leeds caught up with Dallas to ask him about the run in and what Leeds need coming into these important fixtures over the next couple of weeks. Leeds head to Luton Town this weekend, as we've already said, and Dallas doesn't believe that this will be a straightforward game for Leeds, and believes that Leeds will need to be up for a fight if they want to get out of this division this season. Leeds' struggles in recent weeks have come against sides in the lower half of the table, and they've done quite well against those at the top end of the table. A lack of bite against the more aggressive sides has been labelled as one of Leeds' issues, and one of the issues that will need to be sorted before this season wraps up. On Luton and the run-in, Dallas had the following to say. They've got a big couple of games coming up. I just think they need a bit of nastiness about them in terms of being able to win games. The Championship now, all these teams are fighting for their lives. Going to Luton this weekend, and I think it'll be a similar game to what we saw at Portsmouth a few weeks ago. Small ground, fans right on top of you. It's going to be physical. They're going to try and get right up against them. I don't know, do they really want to try and play their way through this game, or need a bit of nastiness? The battle factor labelled by Stuart Dallas there, I think, is a very, very strong point. Leeds need points over performances at this point of this season, and as the old saying goes in football, you need to earn the right to play football and win the battle before you can play ball. So Leeds will need to start winning these fights and these battles against these smaller, more aggressive sides. And they've got a couple of them coming up in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a tricky spell. Luton away this weekend, followed by Middlesbrough away. And those two games could go a long way to pointing out where Leeds will be coming into the final stretch of games, where on paper Leeds should be able to win those games, but again Leeds have struggled against sides down in that end of the table. So if you want to catch the full interview, it's on BBC Leeds. You can check that out if you want to. But yeah, a fighting factor is going to be a really, really big point to keep an eye on in the next couple of games. Are they up for it, and can they push over the line and get promoted this season? Folks, that'll be it for me today. Back at 6 p.m. tonight with Joe Blackburn to give you the information on the charity match coming up and any information you want to get involved with in that game as well. And then back on Saturday on Big Up for the watch along over on Big Up. So it'll be 12:30 kickoff, so we'll be starting at about 12 o'clock. You can come over and check that out if you want to. Details are down below. And I'll talk to you then. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. I'll see you on Monday for the news and on Big Up on Saturday for the match. Talk to you then. See you. Bye.